welcome to episode 93 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram and Patreon as Stitched in Sweden. It's been a few months since I have recorded a podcast episode, so I thought I would come to you today and share with you a few of the things I've been making recently, which have mostly been summer clothing for Eloise. And I have been knitting just a little bit as well. So I'll share those projects with you and a bit of news and news. Yeah, lots of news. So let's just get started. If you are joining me for the first time, I live in northern Sweden with my husband Thomas and my daughter Eloise. And I have lived in Sweden for, it will be 8 years. It would have been 8 years in this December. But we have decided that we are going to move to Colorado in the US. We decided this last year, well, it's always been kind of an idea in our head that we might move to the US at some point, someday. And last year we decided that now was a good time to give it a try. So we applied for Thomas to get a green card, and that was approved earlier this year in February or March, I think. And then once your green card is approved, you need to move within 6 months. So we are moving at the beginning of August, and it's exciting and nerve-wracking all at the same time. As I'm sure with any move, anyone who has moved before will know that moving comes with its own stressors, particularly for people who don't like to pack, like myself. And an international move is a whole different thing. So that is the first big piece of news. We will be shipping most of our belongings with us, but I will be selling some of my sewing machines because the electricity in the US is different than in Sweden, and the plugs are different as well, which that part is a minor problem because you can just get an adapter. But with the electricity difference, you need a transformer to change the power. So I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'm going to be selling my cover stitch machine, which is a, oh, I have some stuff in my eye, Brother Cover Stitch 2340CV, and that has a Swedish plug, which works in Europe. I have an eyelash. It has a Swedish plug. It's like a 2-prong plug that works here, and electricity works at least in Europe. I'm also going to be selling my Janome 9300DX. That's my serger. The Brother, I don't know if I mentioned, that's the cover stitch machine. And I'll be selling this serger as well, which has a UK plug, but works for power in the EU, not just the EU, in Europe. But if you were going to use it in anywhere else other than the UK, you would need to get a plug adapter. So those two sewing machines are for sale, and if you are in Sweden, or especially if you're in Stockholm, I could hand deliver those machines. So just let me know if you are interested. Get in contact with me. You can send me an email, maria.monska@gmail.com, and that's MONTZKA. I'll leave a note in the description below if they are sold. So that's kind of a housekeeping note, I guess, along with that announcement of the move. And I will just go ahead and say my other announcement now, which is that we are expecting our second daughter in the end of November. And yeah, we're really looking forward to that, excited for Eloise to get a little sister. They'll be, well, depending on when she actually arrives, they will be probably about 1 month shy of 2 years apart. So that's exciting. We just found out that it will be a girl. In Sweden, you can find out around 18. You do an anatomy scan at 18 or 20 weeks, around there. So we just found that out last week, 2 weeks ago now, I guess. So that's really exciting. Everything's looking good so far, so that's always nice. So yes, another little girl, which means that all of my little sewed garments that I've made for Eloise will be worn again by her sister. And since their birthdays will be only a month apart, I think the seasons will also line up really well. So Eloise was born December 23rd, 2019, and this one's due date is November 23rd, 2021. So being both kind of winter babies, things should fit at the same, it should be the appropriate size at the right time of year. So yeah, those are the two big announcements, and I think now I'll go into some of the things that I've been sewing recently for Eloise for the summer. It's gotten quite warm here in Sweden. Right now it is about 28 degrees Celsius, which we can check is okay, it's 27 degrees Celsius, which is 81 degrees Fahrenheit. That means that you know, it's shorts, short sleeve shirts, little dresses, anything that's not too close to your body. And we just spent about a week and a half down in Stockholm and in the Swedish archipelago at my in-laws' summer cabin, and it was quite warm there, which is really nice because we've had quite a cool rainy spring up here in northern Sweden. So yeah, I was happy that I had made a couple of things before we left that she could wear. I don't have all of them here to show you because it's been quite a while since my last podcast. I have made a lot of things in the meantime, but I've decided to pick out, I've picked out a selection of clothing items that I've made for Eloise, which are really lightweight. They're actually all made out of woven fabric, which I think before I've mostly shared jersey, stretch fabric items, which I made her because I do use yeah, jersey fabric primarily for Eloise for her little clothes, especially like in the winter and stuff, making long sleeve shirts and onesies and that kind of thing. Leggings was really quick and easy with jersey fabric and warm and everything. But I feel like in the summer it can be nice to have really lightweight cotton lawn, linen, that kind of fabric, which is just doesn't cling to your body. It's breezy, lightweight, and cool. So let me just go ahead and share with you. A lot of these are Liberty fabric, which again, some people ask me when I made some sorry, I'm kind of doing some side tangents here. I made some wool, merino wool clothing for Eloise in the winter out of some really nice merino jersey from We Are the Fabric store in Australia. And I had a few comments with people asking, aren't you afraid she's going to ruin them? Such nice fabric. And you know, she wore those wool onesies and wool leggings so much. They were probably her most worn thing. And I try to really limit the amount of clothing that I make her for any given age, size range, and season, so that she really does, so that we have enough clothing so that we can get through a week without doing laundry, but that also so that she really wears everything to kind of the fullest. So those onesies lasted such a long time, and they stretched really well too, so they actually fit her for longer than I had expected, and because she needed long sleeve until fairly recently, they were really, I mean, she wore them for months and months, so they were perfect. I think that it's really nice to use quality materials even for babies because, you know, if you do kind of limit how much you make for them, then they wear the things often, and like she definitely wears her clothing that I make for her more than the clothing that I make for myself. So I just think, why not use that really nice stuff on your kid? So that's what I've done. I'll start out with the first thing, which has not been a huge success. The pattern itself, it turned out really nicely. She hasn't decided that this is an acceptable thing to wear yet. She pulls it off pretty much directly, but we had, it's a little crunched from being in my suitcase. I had only a jersey sort of sun hat for her, which I thought would be a little bit hot, and it didn't have a very wide brim. So right before we went to the summer house, I made this hat, which is the holiday hat. It comes in sizes for, I think this is the 3 to 4 size. It fits her now. If I made it again, I would lengthen the crown of the hat here because I think that it sits up a little bit high above her ears. I would prefer that it was a little bit lower. But it has a really nice big brim. I added a little bit of elastic here in the back just to kind of cinch it in once it's on. I did that for the outer fabric and the inner fabric, and it's actually fully reversible, so it can also be worn this way. And for this hat, the pattern is in the Garderobe book, which is by Straight Grain. It's in Dutch. But if you have a phone, a smartphone, Google Translate is a magical app that you can hover over the text and it will translate it directly for you. So I find that those patterns are so well written with really good diagrams as well that it's really easy to follow, even if it's in Dutch. Or it's easy to follow with the translation. I don't read the Dutch part, but... So this is the holiday hat from that book, and this is Liberty fabric, the Tana cotton lawn, and then this inner fabric is it's like a shirting fabric that I've had for a while. I've made the Southport dress by True Bias for myself with that, and I also made a couple of things for Eloise, which one of them I have here. So that is the first thing. I also have made this linen dress for Eloise. This is the, I think it's called the Sunflower dress from Oh Me Oh My Sewing Patterns. And I have made this out of this pink linen fabric, which I made a really cute, it was called the Ruffle Romper, I think. And I made that for Eloise last summer that she wore for midsummer. Was a little romper that had little ruffles down the front. And I had exactly enough fabric left over for this dress, which was so satisfying to use it and just have that fit perfect. The pattern pieces fit perfectly on the amount of fabric that I had left. So that was a really nice project to do. She hasn't worn this yet. It's a little bit long, and I think we'll be moving to Colorado still in about a month from now. And it's gonna be hot in August in Colorado, probably usually till the end of September. So I think this will be perfect for then. She can run around in the grass with this little dress. She could wear it now, but she just hasn't. She's mostly wearing t-shirts and shorts on our most recent trip. I added a little label here in case she does wear it to daycare. That is the tag, and I just used a little piece of cotton lawn fabric that was left over from the bias binding that I made for the armholes and the neck hole. I think this was an Atelier Brunette cotton lawn that I got quite a while ago. And I put some wooden buttons on there, and I'm really happy with this little dress. I really like the Oh Me Oh My sewing patterns. I think they have really cute designs for kids. The only difficulty that I have at the moment is that we don't have a printer, so her patterns don't come with an A0 print size, so usually if I have a pattern that I want to print, I'll just have the A0 printed for me. So I send it to somebody who prints it on the A0 and then they mail it to me, which works out really nicely, so then I can trace off the sizes that I want. But for her patterns, she only has A4 or US letter size, and that means that I tape my tracing paper to my computer monitor and trace off of the monitor, which worked really well for the baby sizes because almost the whole pattern piece could fit on the monitor. But as Eloise gets bigger, it's a little bit harder to trace directly off the computer monitor because the pattern pieces themselves are larger than what you can see on the screen, and it just becomes a little tricky. So I kind of wish she had A0, but probably when we move, we will have access to a printer again. Another little thing that I made for Eloise, this is a blouse that is out of, also sewn from Liberty, London, Tana Lawn. And this is the Felice pattern, which is a pattern by Straight Grain. Let me get the pattern, I'll show you. This pattern, I really like Straight Grain sewing patterns. This is the Felice, and there's a lot of different options of styles that you can make. So I've made the blouse with buttons on the back and the sleeveless version for this particular one, but I've made other variations in the past. The sizing goes all the way from 3 months to 11 to 12 years, so really good value in this pattern. I have a lot of different sizes already that I've traced off because I've made it a couple of different times. I think I made the 6-month size previously, and now I made the 18-month size. So this is designed for light to mid-weight woven fabrics. And that's what I made this out of. So this is the back that has some little buttons on it. It has kind of like a curved waistband. It's higher than the waist. It's kind of like a little empire style. The bodice part is lined also with some really lightweight lawn, which is actually, I'm pretty sure, left over from the lining of my friend's wedding dress that I made her. Yeah, so not much to say about this, but this is super cute. It's a little bit longer right now, but I know that even like she can actually wear, no, she can't really wear it, but the 6-month size that I made her before, she can still put it on and it could technically fit her. But it's a bit, I like it restrictive, so I don't put it on her, but I just tried it on before I made this one to see kind of how the sizing was. And yeah, so it's one that can last a while, I think, because you can have it be a little bit too long at first and make it kind of as a dress, even though this is the blouse version, and then as they grow, it can become more of a blouse. So that one is super cute as well. Then I made these little shorts, which I have been meaning to make for the longest time. These are the Pearl Soho City Gym shorts, and this is a free pattern that they have to download on the Pearl Soho website. Also comes in quite a range of sizes. I think this is the smallest size, which is 2 years, and then it goes up to women's sizes as well. And I made this in the same fabric as the hat that I did. So this is a cotton lawn from Liberty, and then this kind of shirting fabric that I had. They came together pretty quickly. They just sat on my desk cut out for a while, which is why they took a little bit longer. I don't know why I do that with, especially with woven projects, with like woven fabric. I think because they require ironing between the steps, whereas jersey fabric you can just use your overlocker and you don't necessarily have to iron. Somehow it's like that additional step that gives me a little bit of a delay when starting woven projects for some reason. Anyway, I made the bias binding here to match the back fabric, and these are super cute on. I made the elastic maybe slightly too wide, but they'll fit for a while, and they still fit now, so it's perfect. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this pattern. It's a perfect way to use up a couple of scraps, and yeah, those are a nice addition to the wardrobe as well. Then maybe one of the things, I don't know if this is my favorite project that I've made. I know, I like these all a lot, so I can't say that it's my favorite, but I can say that this pattern is really perfect for hot weather. This is another pattern from Oh Me Oh My Sewing, and this is called her Peasant blouse and dress, I think. I made this particular one in Liberty Tana Cotton Lawn, and this print is called Eloise. So I thought that was kind of fun. It's really pretty light blues with a little bit of pink. So Eloise usually wears these with either black shorts, pink shorts, or jeans, or black leggings, or pink leggings, or she has some gray shorts and leggings as well. So this is a really simple pattern to sew. It has raglan sleeves, and then the armholes and the neckband are elasticated, and it's just cute, like A-line kind of shape that this is the blouse version, but it still goes kind of a little bit long, but it's perfect for a little pair of shorts underneath or leggings, as I said. And it's just nice and breezy and perfect for when you don't want clothes touching you too much. If I were to make this again, which I will probably add just a little bit of length to the elastic compared to what's recommended, especially for the armholes, because I think they're a little bit, they're not tight, but I think that's what will get tight first. Yeah, so she's been wearing this one a lot. There's a little bit of sunscreen staining along the neck. It's like a little bit yellow, which is kind of a bummer. I'm still hoping that I can get that out, but this has been through the wash once. So if you have any tips on getting sunscreen out of clothing, I would appreciate it, because it's all over her clothing and it's all over my clothing, because as soon as I put sunscreen on her, she wants to be picked up. So that's fun. Yeah, so that is the Peasant blouse, and I have a second one here, which I don't know if you'll recognize this fabric. I don't think that I ever showed it on the podcast, but if you follow me on Instagram, you may remember this fabric is a Lady McElroy cotton lawn, and I made my mom a pair of Carolyn pajamas for Mother's Day last year out of this fabric, but I made them one day and then sent them off the next day, so I don't think I ever showed them on the podcast. But I really like this fabric. It hides watermelon stains really well, and it's really cute. So again, this also can be worn with like any color bottom because it's just so much color in here, and it's really nice and lightweight and super cute. So that is kind of, yeah, what I've been making for Eloise lately. And then those are kind of like they're not more special pieces, but the woven pieces, which somehow to me are less basic than her jersey clothing that I always make her with, which is, you know, basic jersey leggings and some little shorts and t-shirts and that kind of thing. But these are really nice to kind of mix into that set of basics. So speaking of Mother's Day, I will show you what I made for my mom this year for Mother's Day. Even though she hasn't gotten it yet, I FaceTimed her on Mother's Day and showed her what I had made. So I'll go ahead and share that with you now. And I'm not going to ship this to her, I'm just going to bring it with me. So here is the needle case that I made for her. So she is a knitter, but has kind of a random selection of knitting needles. So I thought it would be really nice to get her a full set of interchangeable needles and make her a case to go with them. So this just snaps here. And this is kind of a padded case with a leather strap. And it just opens up like this. And there you have the, I didn't know exactly which type of cables that she would like, so I got her both I know she likes chagu needles, so I got her chagu bamboo needles, and I got her both the red cable twist cables and also the clear, I think they're maybe called like spins or something. The clear cables, which are a little bit lighter weight and a little more flexible. I personally like the clear ones, but I think a lot of people really like the red cables, but for me they're a little bit too stiff depending on which kind of project. I don't like them for magic loop, for example. So yeah, this is the inside of the case. I used this, this gray fabric is from Stuff and Steel. It was a remnant that I bought there one time, and I made a range, is it called a range backpack? Noodle head, it's a noodle head pattern. And I thought this would be just a good kind of sturdier outer layer. And then we just have some white cotton here. And then this little piece of fabric is a very tiny piece of Rifle Paper Co. I think it's called Wildflower or Wildwood. One of their patterns that one of their prints that I had just a tiny piece left, and I thought it would be nice in there. So that is the needle set and the case. And she saw it already and she likes it, so that's nice. And yeah, there it is, all packaged up. So speaking of knitting, I'll show you what I've been knitting, which is a bit of a major contrast from the types of clothing that I've been sewing, which has been very lightweight summery clothing. Now I'm working on a fall winter sweater for Eloise. I'm using Durure Natura Ulysse, and this color is Merlot. It's a really nice purpley wine color. And this is their sport weight yarn, which is 100% wool And I think it is, I wanted to say Portuguese merino, but I don't know exactly, but I know that it is made in France from wool that is also grown in France. I really like their yarn. I have quite a lot of it. And I am knitting a pullover sweater, which is based on the Grove pattern, the Grove pullover, which is a pattern by Kate Oates. And it's a little boy pattern, but I think it can work for a little girl as well. Here it is. It is basically a raglan. It's a raglan pullover that has a, I think you would call it moss stitch, stitch pattern. I'm doing the construction a little bit different than in the pattern, because in the pattern I think the whole thing is worked flat and then seamed up the front to here, where there's then a, is it called a 3/4 zipper? I'm not sure. It's not really 3/4 of anything, so not sure why it would be called that, but I've knit mine flat until the end of the zipper, and then I started knitting in the round. And I'll just do, I've done like a little facing for the zipper part. So here, I'll show you. This is a sweater. Let's see if you can see it better there. You can see that I'm working on the first sleeve, and I've done the body. I've done the neck part partially, so it has a folded over neckband, which I might redo because I sewed it down and I feel like it's not quite lined up exactly how I want it to be. But I just used a contrasting color there for the neckband, which is also Durum Natura. And I have this little mess of stuff inside here, but you can see there's going to be a zipper here. And I've done an I-cord around the zipper area, and then the inside will have this little facing part, which I've basically knit like a long piece of stockinette. And on this side I have already stitched it down on the inside part, so that I have a little kind of slot here for the zipper that's going to be sandwiched in between there, and then I'll stitch it on with my sewing machine. I've never put a zipper into knitwear before, but I figured this is kind of a low risk project to start with, a child size sweater. So that's what I'm doing. I think I need to measure the sleeve maybe and see where I am with that, but I guess it needs quite a bit more. That's that, and I brought that with us on our trip because obviously I was away from my sewing machines then, and I actually hadn't knit for about 3 months when I picked this up and decided to knit it. The same thing happened kind of at the beginning of my pregnancy with Eloise, that I just was really tired, but also just like was really not interested in knitting. I went from like wanting to knit every second of every spare second of every moment of every day to like no knitting for me. I think it kind of like makes me a little bit sick feeling. I don't know, pregnancy is a weird thing. Even today I was going through some fabrics to pick out some fabric to make some short pajamas for Eloise, and there's some fabric that I got in the first trimester this time, and like looking at it makes me feel kind of nauseous. So that's very odd. But yeah, knitting I'm kind of back to a bit now. It's been good to have that project for watching the European Cup soccer that's happening right now. But now that I'm back to my sewing machine, I think I might be working on a few more things before we have to pack everything up and then have it be in, well, on a boat for more than a month. and then probably in storage for a little while. So we'll see. One last thing that I've been knitting is I think they're called the Sweet Mint socks. This is a pattern by Olivia from This Handmade Life, and they're shorty socks, which I've never made before. I mean, I've never made shorty socks before, but I thought, why not give them a try with this super cute pattern. It's not blocked yet, but this is the first one, and it has just like a nice lace pattern. I knit these in Fru Valborg fingering weight yarn. I think it's the twist base, and this is the same yarn that I used to knit my Ginsberg sweater in my size. And what else did I make with it? I think that's it. I think the color is called Antique. I got it from a D-stash from a friend. And the second one is started, but I know already that I have less than half of the yarn left. So I've been trying to do little shortcuts here and there. I've done the ribbing 1 row less. I've done the heel flap 1 row less. I'm trying to knit extra tight for the foot. I don't really know if it's going to work out, which is probably why it is stalled here. But I just think it's so pretty. Even if I only have one, I don't know, it'll be okay. That actually reminds me that I finished a sock very recently, which was also a pattern from Olivia that I'm going to go grab right now. I think these are called the Wandering Garden Path socks, which I started a long time ago and just kind of stalled on them for no particular reason. But I think they're really nice. They have a cable combined with a little bit of garter stitch. And yeah, it just makes a nice sock. So I've just finished these up when I got a feeling recently that I wanted to get some works in progress off the needles. And now I have a pair of socks for the winter. So, only other kind of project that I wanted to share with you is one which is almost finished. Well, actually I have 2 other projects. This one is almost finished, but I just need to finish off the back of this embroidery project that I started working on this when I was, Eloise was probably 6 months old or less. And we were still living in Stockholm, and I would walk through this community garden area to a little park where she could swing on the swing for a bit. And then she would usually play on the picnic blanket for a while and sometimes take a nap there in her stroller. And so I would work on this little embroidery project, and I finished it kind of recently during my first trimester, actually, when I really didn't feel like doing anything else, but I kind of didn't like just sitting around doing nothing, in terms of like during my relaxation in the evening once Eloise is asleep and other stuff is done time. So I picked up this embroidery project and really enjoyed it. I got this at Fancy Tiger Crafts in Denver maybe when I was last in Colorado, which was December 2018. It's a really long time ago. Thanks, COVID. Yeah, so this was just a lot of fun. But speaking of kind of embroidery, I have another project. While I was pulling out this other project, I found the pattern for the this little embroidery hoop that I did. Just looks like that, and basically, yeah, it came with all the thread. I changed the thread colors out a little bit. Here's the details. Here are the details in case you want to check out that person. I know they have an Etsy shop with a lot of little hoop patterns like that. So yeah, when I wasn't knitting and I wasn't doing much sewing either, in those first couple months of pregnancy, I suddenly decided I was going to do some cross stitching, and this was also sort of a finishing up thing. So I finished that embroidery project, which had been kind of partway done for a while, and then after I finished that I was like, oh, I just want to do more with embroidery thread. So I finished this. I think it's kind of ugly, but it's for a really good friend, and she, I think, kind of likes it. So I mean, it's not ugly, but like, there are a couple things. I don't like Halloween. I just don't. She loves Halloween. This was always kind of a point of tension in our friendship growing up. But she recently bought a house, and I started this project for her 7 years ago, and I thought now would be a good time to finish it, since she just bought a house and now she can have this displayed in her house at all times. This is the, it's a Halloween, it was a mystery Halloween sampler from the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, and I stitched it on linen fabric that actually has some sparkle to it. And I think I had made quite a lot of it, but I just got unmotivated because I don't like Halloween, and I just didn't really know. But I thought, perfect, I'll finish this for her 30th birthday, show it to her on FaceTime, and then I can bring it with me to Colorado, frame it up, and give it to her as a funny present. So I already showed it to her and she likes it, or she said she liked it. And she knows that I don't like Halloween, and it's a funny kind of joke that it's sort of a kitschy present. The other thing though that I picked up, which I also started 7 years ago, like right in the first year that I moved to Sweden, is the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery Once Upon a Time sampler. Let me see if I can get this out. Now I originally, this was like the first cross stitch project that I did, and I bought the wrong size fabric. So when I started this project originally, I ended up like cutting out these little squares for each of the months and just doing each month on a little separate square. But I had always wished that I had done it on a full piece of fabric. So recently I decided that I was gonna do this and have it for Eloise and maybe her baby sister then in their room. So I've gotten 4 months done. This is like Once Upon a Time, so there's, you know, a fairy tale, little fairy tale, story book characters. So January is Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, February is the Princess and the Frog, March, which is started over here, is going to be Three Little Pigs and the Big Bad Wolf. We have April, that is Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and then May, which is Jack and the Beanstalk. I think June is the Princess and the Pea, so there's like a bed with a little pea under it, and then yeah, the rest of the months. So I have this piece of linen fabric, which is also a really nice color pink that I like a lot. And I just started it again from the beginning. So I think I had almost finished maybe 7 of these little squares, but they were all individual, and they were on is it called Adia? The cross stitch fabric, which is more, I don't know how to say it. Like, it's actually little squares, so it's like a little bit more beginner friendly, I would say, because there's only holes where you need to go into the holes to make the crosses, whereas this, you have to skip over a hole in order to make the little cross. I don't know. It's like the difference between stitching on linen and this other Adia fabric. But I think the linen has a really nice finish. I have a couple of other Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, the Tea Time sampler there, and then also, I think that was called like Sweets Alphabet Sampler or something like that. So that's been fun. I haven't done it now in a little while because once I got kind of my sewing motivation back, I was doing more sewing. But this could be a project that is good for when we are in the process of moving and are kind of, I'm like in between houses and in between my access to my supplies. So yeah, I think that is really it. Oops. That's really it for things that I've been working on. That's really, it seems like a lot, but it is just kind of a selection of things that I've sewn in the last couple of months because I have been away for a little while. I'll just share with you some fabric that I picked out today that I'm planning on using to make some pajamas for Eloise. I haven't decided on the pattern yet, but I know I have the Lowland Kids PJ top and bottoms, and I think I also have a tank top from them, the pattern. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to use, but it might just be like a little t-shirt and shorts pattern, which, like, you know, any t-shirt and shorts pattern for a kid will work as pajamas too, especially depending on like what kind of fabric you use. So this fabric is a tencel jersey fabric that has a kind of rib texture to it, and this is, I bought it from, I think it's called, I got it from Tigdemar.se, and I think it's from, what's it called? Milk something. Meat milk? I don't know. But I know Meter in Denmark has it also. And this is a really light color fabric, so it's no longer really an option for clothes that she's gonna eat food in. So I think it's perfect for pajamas. Originally I had planned on making a t-shirt for myself in it, which I did. I had a fabric which is more of this kind of like rose color that I made a t-shirt for myself that is in this ribbed fabric. But this is one of those ones that I pulled out today and was like, oh, that kind of makes me nauseous to think about it as a t-shirt for some reason. I don't know. It's really weird. But I think that it will be good for pajamas for Eloise. So the question is whether or not I'm going to do separates, tops and bottoms, or if I'm going to do some kind of one piece with short sleeves and shorts. So we'll have to see. So that's that one. It's a meter. Then I also was looking through kind of some remnants that I have from projects that I made myself. I had made a t-shirt out of this fabric, which I think is also some kind of tencel jersey, possibly bamboo. I'm not positive, but you can see I have a little bit chopped out there, and then I have quite a bit left. And this is a really lightweight, flowy fabric, which I think will also make nice pajamas for Eloise. So again, just trying to decide what pattern I will use. And then finally I have some, I know this is bamboo jersey, which will probably have to be separates because, well, I don't know actually. It might be tall enough for, yeah, that should work. For shorts and short pajamas, if it was a one piece, it could still work. This is a bamboo jersey that I got from Pretty Mercerie, which is a French fabric store. And I made myself a Stacia, I think it's called Stacia dress from So Liberated, which is a short sleeve. I made a short sleeve knee-length version that's really nice to wear. It's really cool and breezy for the summer, and I can still wear it while I'm pregnant, so that is perfect. So those are 3 fabrics that I'm planning to kind of decide today what I'm going to make for her, which pattern I'm going to use, and then I'll probably try to get those cut up tonight. Because lately she's just been wearing t-shirts to bed, which is fine, but then like I have a certain allotted amount of t-shirts that I've made, and when she wears them also as pajamas, we just go through them faster than yeah, she needs to have separate pajamas so that, yeah, so that she has enough clothes before we need to do laundry again. The other thing that I made recently that I just want to share really quick, but I don't have it with me, is a quilt that I made for my friend for her baby that is going to be born on July 8th, which is very soon. It's a planned C-section. So I delivered that quilt when I was in Stockholm, delivered it to her, and I'll share some pictures of it here. This is fabric from Minerva.com, which is, I received the fabric in exchange for a blog post that I haven't written yet, but I'm going to do that now. And I really enjoyed making this quilt. She had some specifications for the quilt that she wanted it to be really fluffy and squishy, because mostly she uses this type of quilt for the baby being on the floor, like doing tummy time and that kind of stuff, and or just lying on the floor. Sometimes you want to have a little bit of extra cushion. So here's some pictures. Maybe I have some pictures of Eloise in there too. Yeah, so I hope she likes that quilt. And just as an upcoming project, while I'm talking about Minerva really quickly, I wasn't going to share everything and now I just am. Another piece of fabric that I have to make a project for them is, so I received this fabric and then I write a blog post for their website. And this fabric is, I have 2 meters of this lace fabric, which is an embroidered kind of lace. It's quite heavy. I got a lot of it. I originally had thought that this fabric would be perfect for a wedding guest dress. And I had planned on making it for one of Thomas's friends from school who's getting married in August. Originally he was going to get married in July, but because of COVID, they've pushed it back to the end of August. And now we're not going to be here at the end of August. And I also had planned this dress project before I was pregnant. But because of Brexit and everything, and also COVID, postage from the UK was taking forever to get to Sweden. So I think this fabric took 4 months to get to me. And, you know, by that time, life had changed, events had changed. I was pregnant and we were no longer attending the wedding. So I still need to make a project out of this because I'm going to write a blog post for them and I really like this fabric. But the question is, what am I going to make? So I think what I'm kind of leaning towards is to make just a piece of formal wear, kind of, yeah, an occasion outfit which can be worn in the future when I'm not pregnant anymore, and maybe for a future wedding event down the line, maybe next year. So my thought is to do a kind of simple shift top where I have the sleeves. So imagine like a short sleeve top where the sleeves are just the lace and have like the nice lace edging as the sleeve, like that. And then the body of the top will be lined. I have some Tencel lining fabric, which is really nice. But the other thing that's kind of stopping me from making this directly is I kind of want to dye that dark green, and right now it's a beige color. I kind of think I might just sew up the project and dye it after the fact, but I don't know, because I don't have access to the dye at the moment. So my thought is to make a slightly cropped shift top and then make it won't be high-waisted, it will be like at my regular waist, so that the top will cover my stomach. I don't go for, yeah, stomach showing. But then it will be a waisted skirt, you know, with a waistband, and then I think it could be gathered, but I don't know how well this fabric will react with gathers, so it's more likely that I will do a pleated skirt that will be kind of full, and I'll probably have the lining go down like mid-thigh, but have the lace fabric extend a bit beyond that, again with like this nice scalloped edge at the bottom of the skirt. So that way it will kind of be like a dress, because it will all be in the same fabric, but it will also potentially be able to be worn as separates, as a top and as a skirt. And if there happens to be a wedding at the beginning of 2022, which I don't think that there is, but let's say even like midsummer next year, it could be nice to have separates if I'm still breastfeeding. So those are my thoughts about this. I have a massive pile of green fabric. So yeah, that's gonna keep me busy. I think I'll probably stick with the pajamas first, get those sorted, because that will be quick, and kind of while I'm working on that, I'll be thinking more about this project. I wasn't doing like a think Winnie the Pooh style. I was actually itching my face there. But yeah, that is what I've been working on. I'm getting a little bit panicky about being away from my sewing machines for a couple of months, but I do have a sewing machine at my parents' house that I will be able to, I mean, it's my sewing machine that I have there, but it's also like I need to really think about what projects I might want to do when we first move in the first 3 months, because I'll need to make sure that I have the other supplies like thread and, I don't know, thread, maybe interfacing, that kind of thing, zippers, buttons, all things, which I would want to then pack with me in my suitcase rather than being shipped on the container. So I know for sure that I'm planning on making a baby quilt for the new baby, and I'm going to also probably knit a baby blanket for that baby. I had a very old, I think one of the first things, actually, like the first big project that I knitted more than 10 years ago, was the Bridgewater shawl from Jared Flood, Brooklyn Tweed Patterns. And I knit that in Knit Picks yarn, which was a lace, I had a lace weight yarn from them. And that project took me a really long time. Excuse me. It turned out really beautiful. And I never wore it because I didn't really need like a cream colored lace shawl. But then I started using it a little bit when we moved to Sweden, kind of as a throw on the couch. It's a little bit small, but like almost like a shawl just to wrap around my shoulders if it was cold. But when Eloise was born, I used it as her baby blanket, and it was so perfect for that because it was lightweight, but it was wool, and so it was warm, and you could like layer it and then wrap her up in it, and it was just perfect. The perfect kind of thing for her to be wrapped up in that and then like on a quilt or something on the floor, or on the table or wherever. So I kind of want to repeat that, but using a little bit nicer yarn. There's nothing wrong with Knit Picks. This yarn just pilled a lot with so much use, and it just got a little bit grungy, and I thought it would just be nice to knit this second baby their own similar shawl blanket pattern. So I'm pretty sure that I have decided that I'm going to knit the quill, which is also a pattern by Jared Flood. I think if it's not Jared Flood, it's at least Brooklyn Tweed, and I'm planning on knitting it out of Veil, which is their lace weight yarn. I think it's Rambouillet, maybe. I've seen that yarn in person once or twice and I really like it, but it didn't have a project in mind, but it seems like this could be the perfect thing. So I'm going to go ahead and order that yarn and have it shipped to my parents so it's there and ready for me to make when we arrive. I have another baby quilt project in the plans for Thomas's cousin, who will be having a baby in September, but I'll also make that in the US because I don't have time to make it here now, and the fabric is available in the US that I want to use from Rifle Paper Company. And I will just make that probably first and then send it back to her here in Sweden. so many projects. I think I probably need to podcast a little bit more often, but it's been really nice to share with you some of the things that I finished recently and my upcoming plans. So we'll see, it might be a little while and I might be filming from Colorado next time. But until then, happy making, and I hope you are having a good summer or winter, depending on where you are. Thanks for watching. Bye.